Hello children, today we are going to discuss a burning topic, that is poverty. Poverty is a blasphemy. That means nobody wants to remain in poverty. Poverty is the other name of suffering. So let's discuss on this topic. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, poverty is the worst form of violence. Mahatma Gandhi told, India will be developed only when the poorest of the poor person will be developed. Then only we can say India as a developed country. In recent days, due to outbreak of COVID-19, that is coronavirus, this topic is being discussed in different international forums. According to World Bank Group President David Malpass, millions pushed into extreme poverty due to COVID-19. This is the current news. You must have heard about this. Here we will argue that it is pushing about 40 to 60 million people into extreme poverty, with our best estimate being 49 million. So you can understand the gravity of this topic nowadays, as a huge number of people are going to be poor due to outbreak of COVID-19. So before beginning our discussion, let's watch this video. From this video, we will know the suffering of a poor child.
مس ما هو حل المسألة؟ مس ما هو حل المسألة؟ مس
From this video, we saw the suffering of a poor child who is not able to get the basic education facility. Now, let's know what is the meaning of poverty. It is a situation in which an individual or a group of individuals are unable to fulfill the basic needs. They are not able to fulfill their basic needs of life, such as nutritious food, decent clothing, and safe shelter. You know, these three things are the basic needs of human beings: food, cloth, and shelter, without which life of an individual is quite miserable. Now, let's discuss some of the dimensions of poverty. Poverty has multi-dimensions. That means poverty can be seen from a number of angles. That is hunger and starvation, poor health, lack of clean water and sanitation. If people are not getting these basic facilities, then they are considered as poor people. We were discussing about poor health conditions of poor people. There are millions of people in the world who are malnourished. Again, we are talking about shelter. The poor people used to collect plastic bottles and unused materials from this garbage, and out of that they lead their life. They earn something by selling all those things. Now we were discussing about safe drinking water. Now you can see safe drinking water is a question mark for poor people all over the world. They are collecting water from drains, and you can imagine what kind of diseases they will suffer from by drinking this kind of water and using this kind of water for different purposes. In order to know the exact scenario of poverty worldwide, let's watch this video.
Hello, friends. I am the Earth. Yes, the very planet you live on. I would like you to learn about a very sad part of me. The grown-ups call it the third world. But what they are really talking about is all the poor countries in our world. The third world is in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And when I see what is going on over there, I feel like crying. They have practically nothing, and the children who live there are having a really hard time. There is no food, and they are starving. There are no schools, and many can't read or write, so can't prepare themselves for a better future. There are also no hospitals, so if someone falls ill, there are no doctors to help them get well. And also, lots of people suffer awful violence from wars and lack of water. Water, which is a major problem for the third world countries, and at the same time, we sadly give it very little importance to. When we want water, all we need to do is turn on the tap. But imagine if whenever you were to need water, you would have to go to a river or a well far from your home. Well, that's what it's like in the third world. There are 748 million people who don't have running water in their houses and are dirty, hungry, and thirsty. It's such a tragedy. Many rich countries say they recycle, but they don't. Instead, they secretly send their electronic and chemical waste to the third world countries. This rubbish causes great contamination, damaging nature as well as all living things.
In this video, we saw the harsh conditions in which the poor people worldwide are living in. So it is our prime duty to serve these people in our locality. We can help them, and out of that we will get self-satisfaction. Now, let's discuss about the classification of poverty. Poverty is broadly classified into two different types. The first classification is made on the basis of head count ratio, and the second one is classified on the basis of comparison. So the first classification, which is made on the basis of head count ratio, is known as absolute poverty. It is based on head count ratio. And the second one, which is based on comparison, is known as relative poverty. So, poverty is broadly classified into two different types. One is absolute and the other one is relative poverty. Let's know the difference between absolute and relative poverty in detail. In absolute poverty, it refers to poverty of people as per the poverty line. That means those people who are living below the poverty line are called poor, and that is known as absolute poverty. The person whose income is below the poverty line are considered as poor. Those people who are living below the poverty line, they are called as poor, and this type of poverty is known as absolute poverty. The concepts of monthly per capita expenditure and consumption of average calorie intake are used to measure absolute poverty. This is one important thing. In India, the minimum consumption level is fixed. That is 2400 calories for rural areas and 2100 calories for urban areas. If anybody is not getting food of this amount per day, then he or she will be considered as poor. According to Planning Commission, the average calorie intake to determine poverty is 2400 calorie and 2100 calorie per person per day in rural and urban areas respectively. Now comes relative poverty. It refers to poverty of people in relation to other people, regions or nations. It is a comparative term, and while we are comparing one state with another state or one country with another country, that kind of poverty comparison is known as relative poverty. It is interpreted in terms of inequality of income. That means one region of a state or a country is not developed. That means in that area more people are living below poverty line, and some other areas are developed. In those areas people are living above the poverty line. Most of the people are living above the poverty line. This shows inequality of income. The concepts of Lorenz curve that you have already studied in class 11th. Lorenz curve and Gini coefficient are used to measure relative poverty. If we compare Odisha with Rajasthan in terms of poverty, then it will be termed as relative poverty. So this is the basic difference between absolute poverty and relative poverty. From this chapter, we came to know the suffering in which the poor people are living. So it is our prime duty to help in the eradication of poverty in some way or the other. Thank you for joining.